Okay, so now before we move forward with the next set of layout, that is the frame layout, let me talk about a layout that is called, sorry, not a layout. Let me talk about a property that is called margin and padding. Okay, you may know these terms, you may have used these terms in your day to day life. Okay, so let me just do one thing. Let me just remove all of them for once. Yeah, never mind. So we have a property called background, and we can just assign any color for this. So I'll be assigning colors to every alternative views. Okay, and then uh, purple 700. Although this is not the best UI, I would say. Okay. Uh, so now we have the UI, and let me just remove the yeah. So I want that there should be some spacing between these containers. So how do I add the spacing between these containers? So for this, you can either use the padding or the margin. Okay. So let me just add some margin between these two. Let's say I want to add some margin between these two things. So for this, yeah. So for this, there's a property called margin, and then let me just add 10 margin. So when you use margin, and this has to be use a number, so this will be a you can say a common number, or a simple number. You cannot use match parent or wrap content, something like this. Always, obviously, because you cannot want to make this margin as the entire width of the container. You want to make a small space that is like a 4 dp or a 8 dp space. Okay, so now you can see this is now distributed evenly from all the three sides, all the four sides, by 10 dp. But let's say you want to make this container only from the top. So how do I do that? So there's a property called margin top, and let's say I want to make it a margin of bottom as well. So margin bottom 10 dp. Okay, so this was one thing that you can just add some margin to it. But when you add the margin, what happens that it, so let me just give you an example of this margin. So when you are adding the margin, what is happening actually, that this thing is now unutilized. That is, this white space is not being utilized anymore. This is empty space which cannot be used. Okay, and in fact you can think of it like this space is now less this width, this view have a much more it have lesser space as compared to the this hello world. So even if let's say I add a margin of 50 dp. Okay, so now only this much area is you can say usable for this hello world, whereas for this entire row is usable. But when you add a padding, there's a thing called padding. Okay, and for this I probably need the wrap content thing, and height as wrap content. Yeah, so padding won't work correctly with the weights. Okay, it does work with correctly, but in this case it won't, because I'm just trying out different things. Okay, so when you add padding, what happens that let me just make it match print. Okay, so now if you let me just remove the padding first. So if you can see, this is equally distributed. But when I have padding here, uh, when I have padding here, this area is now much more increased. So this area is now much more accessible to the user. So that's the difference between the padding and the margin. So margin is basically the gap between two views. I would say the view and some other view. So you can think of like this view is 50 dp from the left of the screen, from the right of the screen, from the top of the screen, and from the bottom of the this container. But when we talk about this container is now 50 dp more from its initial width. That is, it does have 50 dp more from the top and 50 dp more from the bottom. So that's the difference between the I would say the padding. And if you use a wrap content, this does use a significantly more area as compared to your this if you do not use the padding here. So if you use simply like, something simply like this takes up much more lesser space. But when you use padding, this takes a bit more space. Okay, so that was the difference between the padding and the margin, and you can use these two as per your needs. Okay, so that was all about the padding and the margin. And in the next video we'll be talking about the frame layout. Okay.